because there's Heartlanders of all different political persuasions, but more importantly, they're international.
Would you have like a Facebook group, like International Heartlanders
that's
Anonymous,
a good idea.
or what?
We should. We probably could start.
Is it like
one.
a support group where you guys all show up and you're like, "Hi, my name's Jonathan and I'm a Heartlander."
Yeah.
Hi, Jonathan.
No, it's more like.
So I was talking to my Mesoamerican friends and they wouldn't let me sit next to them on church on Sunday because they said that I was a pseudoscientific Republican.
Yeah.
But like, I actually voted Libertarian in the last election. I just found that super exclusionary. You know what I'm saying? Is how
you joke about that, but there is a lot of that going on. The funny thing is, I don't think it's controversial at all. JosephSmith himself said that it was the mounds and the archaeology in Indiana, Ohio, and Illinois that was proof of the divine authenticity of the Book of Mormon. The M2Cers have talked about being jealous of the Heartlanders because of the popularity. The Mulekites, though, left from Jerusalem, and they would have gone through the Mediterranean on Phoenician ships right across the Atlantic like Columbus did.
Are you just hated in the church office building, bro? The following is an episode of Ward Radio and does not represent the thoughts or the opinions of KHTS, its owners, or any of its affiliates, nor does it represent the official opinion of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. With that said, sit back, relax, and enjoy the program. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to Ward Radio. I am your host, Cardinellis, and today I'm joined in the studio by Jonathan Neville, back by popular demand. He was here a couple of weeks ago. We shook the tree of thought. We touched those third rails and came out with some really controversial but cool golden nuggets of perspective here of kind of like Heartlanders versus Mesoamerica and so on and so forth. So he's back. And Jonathan, just so you know, in celebration of your, what do we call it? Last time, a couple of weeks ago, we called it Hill Cumorah Truthers.
Yeah, that's it.
In celebration of your Heartlander bros, I wore my Grand Canyon shirt. What did you bring to the table, my man?
I brought my Chinese BYU shirt.
Okay. Wait, shut up. Is it really Chinese?
Yeah, it's in Chinese.
Wait, like, because it's like counterfeit? Like,
yeah.
No, it's a counterfeit BYU shirt?
It's an official BYU shirt written with the words Brigham Young University written out in Chinese.
Are they got like an extension center in China now,
well,
or what?
They asked us to go teach at some universities in China. They had a China teachers program. And so they made up these shirts so that when we go to class, the Chinese students could read Brigham Young University.
I was thinking it was like when you drive up to Dodger Stadium and they're selling the bootleg hats and the bootleg like Dodgers jerseys for $5 when they should be 15 or for $20 when they should be 80, and you get like, your counterfeit Dodger merch. So that's not counterfeit Chinese BYU merch.
This is official and it's unique. So, I mean, they only made a limited edition for us teachers over there that year. So,
wow, you're like an international bon vivant.
Yeah, well, we've lived in China and Africa, and I've lived all over. So.
Okay, so this perfectly dovetails with the topic today, because I know you texted me on the way to the studio, and you said, because I was pumping you for topics,
right?
And you said international Heartlanders.
Yeah.
So you, the international man of mystery, who has so much international work and travels, has actually come across a community of people internationally, you say, that are going against the old school M2C model or the Mesoamerican model, like you call it. And you say there's a growing international community of people that think the Book of Mormon didn't happen in Central or Mesoamerica, that it happened here in the Heartland, here in Campbell Soup territory, Ronald Reagan territory, all those things y'all.
Well, not necessarily in California, but
what you got against California, dog?
I love California. I was born in California. I mean, come on.
Okay, so tell us about international Heartlanders.
Okay, international
I can't believe this.
So, as I mentioned, I've lived in China and Africa, and I visited every continent, and the only continent I couldn't find Heartlanders was Antarctica. Okay, they only had penguins and a few Chilean soldiers.
I see what you did there. But
they had, as an example, I was in Dubai a couple of years ago, and we were having dinner with the stake president who had just been released because he was returning home to Perth, Australia. And during the conversation, he asked me, because I mentioned I was going to Oman. I wanted to go down and see where we think Lehi left from the Saudi Arabian Peninsula. And he said, well, how do you think that Lehi traveled to America? And I said, well, I think he crossed the Atlantic Ocean. And he stood up and he said, give me a high five. So I gave him a high five. And he said, I don't know that many people that know this, but I 100% agree with you. They crossed the Atlantic and landed in North America. The whole Book of Mormon took place in North America. And he said...
Well, you think they crossed the Atlantic instead of the Pacific?
Right, yeah.
But then if they made it down to Oman and then came out of the Red Sea into the Arabian Peninsula, what, you think they went down around...
Yeah, they went around Africa.
They went around Africa and then over?
Yeah. In fact, that's...
Well, the currents... I hate to say this is a very brutal analogy, but that's the same currents that the Phoenicians took in their conquests of the American continent.
Yeah.
And they were kind of like, some people consider them the Vikings of Africa.
Right.
In some of their actually, no, I'm sorry. No, they didn't. They took the reverse. No, that's the old slave ship route.
Well, part of it is.
Yeah.
Well, not down the east coast of Africa. They went on from the west coast on the slave route, along with Christopher Columbus, of course, and all the explorers went that way.
Well, because Christopher Columbus, his big problem was that the trade winds took him down to the Canary Islands, and they could never get past the Canary Islands because the trade winds changed south.
Right.
But coming up from Africa, you're then blown over the ocean.
You go up by the Canary Islands and then over to America.
Oh, so you think that their ships, tight like unto a dish, didn't just leave... the Mediterranean Sea and cross the Straits of Gibraltar and then end up in New York.
Yeah, that's the Mulekites would have done that. Because the Mulekites left from the Jerusalem area, right?
I don't know if I'm on an episode of the History Channel or if I'm on an episode of Gaia or what, but let's keep going, bro. Let's keep going.
There's 3 voyages. We got to keep them distinct because the Jaredites could be anywhere. I personally think they crossed the North Pacific, and that's because of an Indian tribe in British Columbia whose origin tradition is that they came on ships and had glowing pearls in them. That's another topic we could talk about someday.
Dude, okay, this is great. Keep going, bro.
It's awesome. I even have the journal of the missionary who encountered these Native Americans up there and got the story.
Get out of town. Okay, keep going.
For another time. But then
you've got your 3rd trip to the Ward Radio Wigwam already.
Got to come all the way to California again.
Yeah, this is crazy. Okay, keep going.
But then you have Lehi's voyage, which they left from the Arabian Peninsula, and there's Salalah is the town that has a big port that a lot of us think that's where they left.
I've been to Salalah,
and that's the place I visited.
Okay, rock on.
And then there's another one that's further down, another wadi that's less likely in my opinion. But either way, the trade winds in the fall would have taken after the harvest, and they harvest the honey before they left, would take them down the east coast of Africa and around the tip of Africa, up the west coast and over to America, following the Columbus route, basically, once they got to the Canary Islands. So, and I visited the Canary Islands once because it was part of my due diligence on all this stuff. So then there's the Mulekites, though, left from Jerusalem, and they would have gone through the Mediterranean on Phoenician ships, presumably, right across the Atlantic like Columbus did. So both of those converge somewhere in the United States, and there's a variety of opinions among Heartlanders about which route they took. Most of us think that, or I shouldn't say most of us, some of us, I think, that Lehi landed in the panhandle of Florida, and then Nephi, when he left his brothers, he went up to the Chattanooga area of Tennessee, and I've explained all this in the books. In this line of thinking, then, when the Mulekites came over, they either came up the Mississippi and went all the way up to where we think Zarahemla is, across from Nauvoo, or they went through the St. Lawrence Seaway and made their way somehow to Iowa. So that's an overview of the ocean voyages. But it's really cool because I don't know if you know or your listeners know about the Phoenicia voyages that were a recreation of the Phoenician voyages around Africa.
Yeah, it used to be that people said like, oh, this amount of oceanic travel was impossible.
Yeah.
Until somebody actually built a legitimate to date with old school tools Phoenician boat.
Yeah.
And then like the arrogance of some of these scholars, like first off, I've said this multiple times on the show, so I won't repeat myself too much.
Yeah.
But like the arrogance of white Western post-Renaissance scholars refusing to believe that any other race of people ever was able to do anything brave and explorational or whatever the word is, kind of comes across as a little bit racist. You know what I'm saying?
A little bit.
And then it also completely undermines the amazing human ingenuity of all these artifacts that have gone unexplained. Until they could tell me how the pyramids were built with a convincing model, don't tell me that the Egyptians couldn't cross the ocean.
Yeah.
Because they're building buildings we wouldn't get through union negotiations for the stonemasons union in the amount of time that they were just throwing up pyramids left and right. So don't tell me that they couldn't cross like 800 miles of water if these people are throwing up buildings that to this day we can't explain.
Well, and I've been to sites in Lebanon, where archaeological sites where they have massive stone pillars that were imported from Egypt. So they had to have big ships to be able to do that.
Oh yeah, that had to carry literally, if it was by ship.
Yeah.
And not by the awesome levitational skills that we know that they had.
That's true.
Yeah.
The anti-gravity machines.
Yeah, exactly. I will totally take anti-gravity machines any day over just a big reed ship, all right?
That's right.
But if it was by ship, that means they would have had to have ships that were capable of massive exploration.
Yeah. And we read about that in the Book of Mormon. Mormon even said, look, I can't write about everything. I can't talk about our building of ships and our shipping. So he didn't get into all that.
But with that said, Hagoth was a beast.
Yes. And Hagoth was mentioned, but he mentioned that they had a lot more that they didn't.
By the way, isn't that ultimate proof the Book of Mormon was written by dudes? Because, like honestly, they're always talking about how, okay, we need to save this Book of Mormon for plain and precious truths and the spiritual stuff. With that said, dude, the Sword of Laban was like some seriously fine craftsmanship, bro. Oh, with that said, dude, like my bro Hagoth building these big old boats. You got to see Hagoth's boat. You know, they're talking about all of this like space they want to reserve for the plain and precious truths. Yeah. One of which is how cool the Sword of Laban was, bro. You know?
That's right. Totally a dude book.
Yeah, it's a total dude book. So anyway, keep going.
Okay, so I was mentioning this guy in Dubai who was a Heartlander, and he was from Perth, Australia, which, by the way, is one of the most amazing cities in the world.
Oh, okay.
And not many people go there, but it's really an awesome place.
Rock on.
But he was from there, and he was a stake president in Dubai, and he was a Heartlander. Had no connection with American politics or any of that stuff. And then in Africa, I think I mentioned a few weeks ago when I talked to you about the illustrated book from Africa, right?
Okay.
And that was a Heartlander from
the comic book.
Yeah, the comic book.
Okay, cool. I remember that.
He was born in Madagascar, but he lived in Mauritius, and he figured out himself on the internet that the Mesoamerican thing didn't make sense, and he was a Heartlander. And then just not too long ago, I was down in New Zealand in church. And I was talking to this guy I met there, and the topic of Book of Mormon geography came up because we were in Come Follow Me, right?
Yeah, rock on.
And he said, well, I can't buy this Mesoamerican setting. What do you think? And I said, well, have you heard about the North American setting? And he says, yeah, I've seen the videos, and that makes a lot more sense. And so here's a dude in New Zealand. I've heard from people all around the world.
When you say you've seen the videos, are you talking about those low resolution DVDs that Wayne May keeps putting out that I see on like everybody's grandparents'
Wayne
shelves?
May and Rod Meldrum, both of them.
Yeah, and like you put them in the DVD player and it's like 480i and it looks like YouTube in like the early 2000s and you're just like, man, we got to update this cheese, dude.
That's right. Well, and they're making them better, but you're right.
Okay,
you could use some production value, but
that's funny.
And I hear from people. I've done firesides in Geneva and Paris and other cities in France, all with Heartlanders that are fascinated to learn about this, and they don't buy the Mesoamerican stuff, and none of them can care less about American politics. They don't even know the difference between the different parties, or they know who the president is, but they don't care.
Yeah.
So this a lot of the M2C scholars, we call them at Book of Mormon Central or Scripture Central, castigate Heartlanders as being right wing, reactionary, whatever, and it's just a false narrative. It's their only defense. Because they're stuck in a situation of saying that the prophets have been wrong all along, and about Cumorah. That's their underlying premise of their whole Mesoamerican model. And so, in order to refute that, they have to castigate Heartlanders as being right-wing Republicans.
And they use the institutional strength to do that,
and the money they raise and all that.
Oh, wow!
In fact, when I moved to Oregon, I had someone say, "How could you move to a blue state?" And I said, it's part of the United States. Oregon's awesome,
Yeah.
And so the political side of this is really a red herring that they throw at us.
Okay.
Because there's Heartlanders of all different political persuasions, but more importantly, they're international, all around the world. And I could give you many more examples. We won't take the time. But I wrote.
Would you have like a Facebook group, like International Heartlanders?
That's
Anonymous,
a good idea.
Or what?
We should. We probably could start
Is it like
one.
a support group where you guys all show up and you're like, hi, my name's Jonathan and I'm a Heartlander.
Yeah.
Hi, Jonathan.
No, it's more like.
So I was talking to my Mesoamerican friends and they wouldn't let me sit next to them on church on Sunday because they said that I was a pseudoscientific Republican.
Yeah.
But like, I actually voted Libertarian in the last election. I just found that super exclusionary. You know what I'm saying? Is how
you joke about that, but there is a lot of that going on where people are afraid to say anything in church.
I can't think of something more pathetic and hashtag first world problems and more proof that Mormon society, especially in the Western United States of America and places like Utah, Idaho, and Arizona, is standing on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah.
And instead of building another story in the building, instead of putting another rung in the ladder, they're just sitting there in the rarefied air, just collecting the dividends and letting the foundation atrophy underneath them.
Yeah.
If you have nothing better to talk about than to gatekeep geographic models of where the Book of Mormon happened, you do not understand Joseph Smith, the purpose of the restoration, the beauty that is the Book of Mormon, and are a bad person.
No, we love everybody though.
I'm just kidding. I was seeing how far I could just take it, right? But so anyway, like that is so hashtag first world problems. Oh,
yeah,
so and so over there, they believe in the Mesoamerican model.
Yeah.
I mean, no, sorry, it was the wrong one. They believe in the Heartland model. You know, that's hilarious.
Well, there are some areas of the church where they would whisper about if they believed in Mesoamerica still, because
that's
and on the M2Cers have talked about being jealous of the Heartlanders because of the popularity. And it's such a logical and rational approach to the Book of Mormon to say Joseph Smith and Oliver Cowdery were correct. I mean, that shouldn't be outlandish, right? It shouldn't be surprising to people that some members of the church still believe what they said.
Yeah, rock on.
So I wrote this little book called Before the World Finds Out, and it's kind of an international take on the development of Zion around the world. It's written in a novel form with a former member who meets a member and doesn't know what's happening in the modern church.
Okay.
Like a lot of the critics of the church have no idea what's happening around the world in the church because we are building Zion everywhere.
Yeah.
And they don't know because they're so focused on Utah and
also our church sucks at its own PR.
Well, yeah.
They're so worried about not giving anonymously that they never say the good things that they do.
Let me tell you something about that. So when I was in Mauritius, they couldn't have senior missionaries, so we were kind of recruited to be like senior missionaries. So I'd go on splits with the elders. And we went to this one guy, and he said, we were all speaking in French, and he says, so you're telling me there's a prophet today? And the elder said, yes. And he said, well, why don't you tell everybody? Everybody in the world should know this. Yeah. And I said, well, that's why this elder's here on a mission to tell people. And he goes, yeah, but he's knocking door by door. You're not going to get a message out that way. And it was really an interesting contrast because in Mauritius, it's primarily Hindu, and they have big billboards whenever a Maharishi or a guru comes to visit, and they announce this guy's visit, and everybody needs to come. And they come in big crowds, and we don't do anything like that when our general authorities visit.
That is so true. We hide under a bushel, man.
We could have when an apostle comes to a state conference, that city should be plastered. Here's an apostle of the Lord coming to visit. That's how they do it in the Hindu.
But Orthodox wisdom has taken over, aka whitewashed our church into like irrelevance.
Yeah.
Some old guy in a Toyota Camry just got out in a steak center. And there's a lot more people at that steak center now, but wow, okay, interesting.
I wonder who that is. But so that's why I said before the world finds out, but it's almost before the church finds out,
Yeah.
So
wow. Are you just hated in the church office building, bro? Are you just like shaking?
I get love letters from them all the time, So
you do? Yeah, but you probably get some hate mail too, don't you?
Well, they avoid that because they're afraid I'll publicize it if they send me hate mail. But,
oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, you're in the rarefied air of being protected by how much you've already complained.
I guess so.
Okay,
Yeah,
going, Doug.
well, but I love having critics because the more they criticize me, the more views I get and stuff on my blogs and things. So I'm happy to have them criticize me.
So you're like you're like the Heartlander version of Howard Stern, man. You just keep writing controversial books, saying crazy things.
But the funny thing is, I don't think it's controversial at all. I think what I'm doing is just up front. I mean, I say, here's the church history, here's the archaeology, the geography. I just lay it out the facts and I let people decide for themselves. You know, I'm cool with people believing whatever they want. And I'm totally libertarian when it comes to belief. I just feel like members of the church should be fully informed so they can make informed decisions.
Okay, so just send one last message out in these last 2 minutes to the diasporic members of the Heartland not Facebook support group, but what's the message out to your international Heartlanders, man?
Well, the message is keep going and be confident because the truth is on your side. And you know, the more people learn about church history and the relevant archaeology, geography, anthropology, the more they realize the Book of Mormon is actually an actual history, and it took place exactly where Joseph Smith and Oliver Cowdery said it took place, among those people. And it's really awesome. You know, I understand the argument that it's better to not know where the Book of Mormon took place so that people can analogize it to themselves. But by that measure, you could say it took place in Malaysia or Eritrea or wherever. Yeah. And that's a legitimate frame of reference, I guess.
Sure.
But Joseph Smith himself said that it was the mounds and the archaeology in Indiana, Ohio, and Illinois that was proof of the divine authenticity of the Book of Mormon. And I think as long as we adhere to that, we can see it as proof of the divine authenticity of the Book of Mormon. That's how he put it. And I don't think we are in a position to say he was wrong about that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah, that's
Holy
awesome.
Smoke.
And it's exciting because then you read the Book of Mormon with that in mind and you understand why Cumorah is in New York and why Joseph Smith had
And
to
it's
be
all in
moved
that
there.
book right there?
That's in that, I think we talked about that book.
No, the book you're holding in your hand.
Oh, this one here, The Rational Restoration.
Yeah.
There's part of it's in here. Yeah, this is a book of reframes.
Oh, can we talk about that on the other side of the commercial break?
Yeah, let's do that. Okay.
Okay, cool,
Let's do
sick,
that.
awesome.
Cool.
Jeez, holy, you got so much going on here, dude.
Yeah.
I always get, I could talk to you for days, man. This is amazing.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
So anyway, if you guys are listening on the radio, you know, just stay tuned. The other side of this commercial break, we're going to be back. If you guys are watching on YouTube or listening to a live stream, you know, just check us out on wardradio.com. We'll be back in a minute. Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. Before you go, please make sure that you like the video, share it with your friends, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please let this be the video in which we earn your subscription and that you press the alert button so you're alerted to all of our fun live streams and standalone videos and community posts. Also, if you'd like to help us out, please consider joining the channel. Members get all kinds of cool perks and benefits. They get early access to a lot of our videos and special emoticons and emojis during our live streams and preferential treatment there. It's a lot of fun. Speaking of a lot of fun, we have a super cool Discord. If you'd like to join our Discord, check us out on wardradio.com. There's a link to the Discord there. Also, you can sign up there for our newsletter. Our newsletter is a lot of fun, and you can put your email address in there. And if you'd like to contribute to the program, please consider looking us up on Venmo or on the Cash App. We're on both of those platforms. Also, if you just want to keep watching more content, right about here and probably right about here are going to be some more videos. Please check those out. And as always, for this and more, please make sure that you look us up and check us out at wardradio.com.